Welcome back to the Should Be Right MMA podcast. I'm with today's guest, Jack Boon, co-host Julien and Jack. Today we'll be chatting about weight loss journeys, lifting for grappling, why you should lift weights, especially if you're a combat sports athlete. Jack Boon's experience growing up, having a father like David Boon, and the opportunity to become Jack Boon, and many more interesting facets of conversation.
We'll hope they're interesting.
We'll see. So, man, tell us about your origin. Have you always been in Melbourne, or did you grow up?
No, I grew up in Tassie. So I'm a double-headed Tasmanian. Don't judge me for it. So grew up there, pretty typical, playing a lot of sports. Did all my schooling there. You've made reference to the old man, which had footsteps to fill in my mind, and probably even Tassie's mind, to do the same things, which was a lot of internal pressures, which made it hard to, I guess, probably excel when it came to actually performance with cricket especially. And looking back on it now, I would have probably identified that as performance anxiety, but that's not really something that probably existed back then. You know what I mean? It's something more that gets discussed typically now with mental health and so forth. But yeah, after finishing schooling and stuff and sport not working out, that's when I moved to Melbourne and had already been in the gym from a very young age, I think about 14, 15 years old. And so had started doing PT, I think, before I'd even finished school. And so, the plan was really to move to Melbourne to, I guess, dive into the opportunities that were presented in the big city in the health and fitness space.
And your first sport you pursued after high school in the lifting space, fitness industry, was bodybuilding?
No, I actually teased the bodybuilders quite a lot. I definitely would have described my style of training to be very much like a bodybuilder, with, I guess, the goal of aesthetics being priority number one, building as much muscle as possible, being as lean as possible, but never felt the need to put fake tannin on and a G-string to squeeze my muscles on a stage in front of people to be subjectively told that I was good enough. So definitely not into the bodybuilding scene, but trained like that for a long time, so to speak. Yeah.
And something I've really gotten value out of on your social media presence is the idea of not, like, if you're not a bodybuilder, don't train like a bodybuilder, and don't eat like a bodybuilder, and don't live like a bodybuilder, because what they're doing is extreme. And I think that's a really good message to people who are maybe hobbyists or just looking to lose a bit of weight and like look and feel better. Could you speak on that a little bit, and like where was your first experience with that idea?
Yeah, definitely. I think, a lot of us as PTs were sort of like really guilty of it, and I'd even in my very young years, I can reflect on moments of training general population women of 55 years old, mother of 2 or 3 kids and a professional lifestyle, and then trying to train them like Dorian Yates out of blood and guts and putting them in a body bag and wondering why they weren't coming back. But whether it be even just the longevity and well-being of your body, if you don't have athletic aspirations or care too much about functionality, then you can probably get away with very much hypertrophy bodybuilding style of training. But as soon as you try and combine that with, bouts of athleticism where you do need to be twisting and changing direction and moving in all different directions, when you're so used to just training in sagittal straight line planes, it can leave yourself open and vulnerable to injuries. And there's definitely some wear and tear on my joints that are a consequence of training that way in the past. But very much from a nutritional perspective as well, it's very unrealistic for most people that are living a normal life to find the time, let alone have the compliance and discipline to eat 6 meals a day. And we can question whether or not that's even a necessary thing for them to achieve their results, because that idea has probably come purely from a bodybuilding thing, going, well, if I'm going to try and eat 4,500 plus calories a day, that's pretty hard to do in 2 or 3 meals. So they've just had to break it up into more frequency. But again, if you've got any, you know, not to attack the individuals, but bodybuilding as a sport, if you will, I think that sport, calling it a sport even has an asterisk next to it. It's probably a bit more of a beauty pageant, but it is very selfish. It means that your life is dedicated to it. It is a bit of a full-time job, the whole cliche of eat, sleep, train, repeat. But if you do have obligations of family and work responsibilities out of that, it's just it's a very tough thing to sort of emulate, and unnecessary for the most part. So
Hugh, are you managing to get up for 6 a.m. jiu-jitsu, but not for your partner?
No, I'm really lonely.
Well, if you did have a partner, you could use Vitalitea's patented aphrodisiac blend. And with our discount code, SPRMMA20, you can check out from the store, not from the bedroom, with 20% off.
Oh, that's not too hard. Unlike me.
What do you make of that whole...
I mean, it's become very big in social media over the last couple of years. Like all these, there are a couple like relatively serious bodybuilders that have gotten, you know, crazy amounts of fame and are able to put out this content. And, you know, a lot of guys in probably my age group and younger, especially, like the commercial gym I lift at, see like groups of 13-year-olds in there doing like an entire they'll do an arm day and they're there for like an hour and a half and they're just going.
yeah.
Do you think that, I guess it's kind of hard to narrow down whether that's a positive or negative thing, but do you think that's, I don't know, longevity wise, do you think that's reasonable? Like that's maintainable?
I think it'll eventually catch up with you. I think sometimes people really associate muscle soreness with efficiency and results. And there's a psychological connection there that if I wake up tomorrow and I'm really, really sore, then I've done a really, really good job.
Right.
But we probably need to identify that sensation and stimulation are 2 very different things. And I would probably be more inclined to encourage people to buy into the advice that you can only train as hard as you can recover. And, you know, when we look at that style of training, it typically is promoted by those that have been very successful in the bodybuilding industry, whether that be the Ronnie Colemans, the Dorian Yateses, the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, and all these guys. And what we need to understand is, firstly, they're genetic freaks. Secondly, they're on performance-enhancing drugs, which changes the recovery component and even just the capacity to build muscle, even with a sub-average level of nutrition and training. So it might just be a journey or a path for them to go through to realize that there is a better way, you know what I mean? So if we think about, I really like to think of it, depends. If it's pure muscle building versus strength, you know, there's nuances that can be debated, but I really like to give the example to people that at the end of the day, strength is a skill, right? It's a neural efficiency. And the more coordinated you are and the more rehearsal of repetition that you have of that skill, the more efficient you become at moving weight from A to B. And the example I like to give is that if we had a clone, a twin, of either one of us, and one of you had a tennis ball at a target, at a wall, and one of you threw that tennis ball at the target 70 times once per week, versus the other version of you did 10 throws at the target every day, I would be backing that despite you've had both the same amount of attempts, that if you continued with that regime for a 3-month period of time, I'm going all in on the person who's had 10 every day because of the frequency of that skill application, if that makes sense.
So it's a matter of adaptation to like a skill adaptation.
Yeah, I just think when it comes into developing a skill, no matter what that is, whether it's sports specific, whether it's musical, whether it's, you know, whatever that may be, it's frequency is a very important factor to your development. We could say the same with jiu-jitsu.
100%.
You know what I mean? Like who do you think is going to be better? The person who trains really hard for 2 hours a day, or that person who maybe drills for 20 minutes on that specific skill or transition or whatever you want to call it every day for a week, I think that person's going to come out far better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
100%. And yeah, the notion of lifting for jiu-jitsu is a hot topic, and I think hopefully like everyone is lifting twice a week in the jiu-jitsu world as we become more professional. But maybe let's start with that. Without giving away too many secrets, because I know you have a fantastic lifting program, what would you say are the foundational movements that you should do in a lifting program every week as a grappler?
I reckon this extends beyond just grappling. It could almost go to just general population for longevity, pain reduction, and well-being, but into any sport is you want to cover your basic movement patterns. You want to have a squat, you want to have a hinge, you want to have a push, you want to have a pull. You could probably say an overhead press, and if you really wanted to throw in there, maybe a carry.
Okay.
And if you're covering all of those bases in some form, then I reckon you've ticked off a bulk of the important stuff.
So I've been using these Breatheeze performance nasal strips and lip tape. So about 8 months ago, I had a surgery and I was really struggling with my snoring. And I've just been using the nasal strips and the lip tape. And that made such a difference. Julien, what is our discount code?
SBRMMA 15 to get 15% off your Breatheeze order.
Guys, link in bio, check them out.
And what are some of the accessories we might be looking at, like rotational movements and stuff?
Well, the thing I love about jiu-jitsu is all of a sudden bicep curls have become functional.
Wow. Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? Where you're quite regularly performing that kind of action. So historically, I'd very much just say it's a beach muscle. But jiu-jitsu is probably one of the very rare places where there's some argument to be said for variations of bicep curls, whether they're just standard dumbbell curls, whether they're Zopman curls again, because you're going to get obviously a lot of forearm activation that's going into your grips, whether you're a gi guy, whether you're a no gi guy, it's debatable on the importance of it. But accessories definitely should be, you could argue some direct arm work. I think that plyometrics should absolutely be something that's included. Probably more so at the start of your sessions. So when we're looking at the integrity of tendons and joint health, plyometrics are going to play a pretty big role in that. They're obviously I think plyometrics are something that are done poorly in the fitness industry. If we think of like F45 and those kind of classes, they've often got, really high repetition box jumps in the middle of a conditioning class. When we look at, what's actually happening in that scenario is that you're ingraining inefficient movement patterns under a fatigued state. The whole purpose of those plyometrics is actually to, recruit fast twitch muscle fibers and keep you moving explosively. You know what I mean? So, I would say plyometrics is a big one for grappling athletes to definitely be including in their workouts.
I mean, Hugh can speak to this. Since he's done his knee, he's been crazy on the plyos and he's recovered pretty well. So,
definitely. Yeah. Probably another underutilized one would be neck training, direct neck training.
Something I avoid because I just despise it. But I know I should be doing it. It's one of those things.
Have you ever met someone with a big neck who's not strong?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How would we get a big neck?
I mean,
Strong neck.
You could do a combination of things. I mean, you've got the old school where you've seen like the apparatus with the chain and doing extensions and flexion. You can do that just laying on a flat bench with probably a little towel on your forehead, so you're actually working the flexors of the neck as well as the extensors. And I also like isometric versions of it, so holding yourself on a bench as if you were to do a glute bridge, but instead of your shoulders being on the pad, you would have the back of your head on the pad and looking to isometrically hold that for time, and that's something that you could also progress quite comfortably.
I remember coming down to the gym once and Julien was just doing a neck. I was like, what are you doing, man? He's like, oh, it's my neck day. And I'm like,
Yeah, that makes me feel vindicated now that hearing you say that.
in my mind, I'm like, what's this fucking guy?
Yeah.
He's got a neck day. And then the more I've like read into it, like heard people talk about it, and like Julien's got a strong neck. And like a lot of grapplers with strong necks are strong, like you said.
I needed to absorb the punches, otherwise my brain's just gonna go all over the place.
Yeah,
that's
true.
absolutely true.
Yeah, for boxing,
absolutely
it makes
true.
sense.
Yeah.
I believe in it. I'm a believer.
And it feels good. It looks cool looking in the mirror, and you have like a thicker
It is.
neck.
It looks good. It looks good. I think it looks good.
Yeah.
I don't know. My wife would think it looks good, but big neck to me that gets me a bit excited.
I like Mikhail. It was crazy. He was doing that on the bench off his head.
Yeah.
And up till that point, I was just doing with the bands and just like increasing the distance from where it attaches to try to increase the pull at least. And he's like, "Why don't you do this?" And I do it. I'm like, "Whoa, that's so much better! Holy shit!"
I mean, even general population people, it should probably have a look at neck training. When we look at modern lifestyles of being sedentary at desks all the time, that they could do with a little bit of neck work to try and undo some of the time spent in shitty posture.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what's a movements medicine kind of thing, right? So like if you've got a little bit of tension there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Big Mike's on your program, hey? Mikhail's on your program, hey?
Yeah, he's always checking in and consulting with me about the best way to keep him feeling as strong as possible. But, he is pretty strong for a little bastard.
Yeah.
He's very strong. Tell us, he'll love this. Tell us about your experience on Sunday
Training on
with
the
Charles.
weekend.
What happened to him?
Charles and Mikhail came in and we
Made him white.
we started with plyometrics actually. So we did about 10-15 minutes of jumping, building up in intensity out on the street. And that was actually pretty tough in itself for about 10-15 minutes. And then we went into the belt squat and we were punching out sets of 15. Mm-hmm. I think we had 6 plates aside. So it was pretty heavy at that repetition range. And I said to Mikhail that I think we belt squatted the Malaysian out of him because he was looking more like Scott Dale after about 10 minutes. And I've seen many people go grey in the face from leg training, but I've never actually seen someone's legs lose their colour. And his legs were actually white. I shit you not. So he missed a couple exercises after that, but joined back in for the bicep curls at the end. Yeah.
I want to ask you about the belt squat. There's so many different ways to squat. Like I love like a Zercher squat. When I do a back squat, my lower back just flares up. Mm-hmm. So even though that the Zercher is a bit more intense on the core, it doesn't hurt as much for me to perform. Where do you rank them in like? Probably isn't like a best way to squat, but
no, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I think again, social media has a lot to answer for because we would have all heard the term like "arse to grass."
Yeah.
And without a doubt, having a full range of motion and good depth in your squat is something that everyone should be striving for. But what we need to understand is that your biomechanics influence your ability to squat at certain depths, your hip socket depths. So if you've got shallow hip sockets, you're more likely going to have a very deep and comfortable squat. Whereas if you've someone got a deep hip socket, then what happens is you're more likely going to get impingements as you get deeper into that hole. And therefore, if you sort of force beyond that position, well, something's going to have to take the slack, and it's usually going to be the lower back.
Yeah.
Right. So there's, I would question, what is your need to be doing barbell back squats? Can we achieve the same thing with less risk?
Yeah.
Right. So that could be any variation of the squat, whether it be a single leg Bulgarian squat, whether you be doing a safety bar squat, whether you're doing a front squat. That's if you're obviously confined to barbells. We obviously have a lot more technology in gyms now with machines where we can be doing hack squats and pendulum squats and belt squats and all of these things, which all have their time and place, their pros and cons. I think when you're looking at athletic performance, it's important that we do some free weight variations of squats because then we're training the stability because the stability has to be created internally. Whereas when we're in something like a hack squat, it's externally stabilized by the machine and you can focus more on strength. So it's going to be a better option perhaps for building muscle because of the sheer amount of weight you can move. but it might not necessarily translate as well to athletic performance and functionality, if that makes sense. But the belt squat specifically, I mean, it's fantastic because you can take away all of the, I guess, the spinal compression because you've got nothing on your back. You can be a little bit looser with your form without so much consequence. There's less variable from a skill acquisition point of view that you have to focus on to be able to get the same result. And that's where, for example, how we were doing the 15 reps, which is on the higher side of repetitions. You know, it's a place that will allow you to push the intensity with high volume and fatigue without nervousness of hurting yourself. Whereas to do that with a barbell squat, I would be getting very nervous myself, even as an experienced lifter. You know what I mean? So time and a place.
Interesting. Interesting topic I saw on your social media and we've kind of touched on is that like idea of utilizing your attributes. Would you be able to explain that maybe a little bit more in relation to lifting? Because it's something I've realized as I've started training jiu-jitsu longer and longer, and I've started to move away from, say, the foundations or the fundamental techniques and even ideas like it's like common heuristics in our sport. For example, like don't expose your back or lead with your hands maybe. And I've been trying to play and see like what works best for me. Like I have wide hips, for example, so I'm finding like looking towards the legs when I pass maybe a little bit better because I'm making people carry my hips. Whereas like traditionally people camp using an upper body. I have like a skinnier frame compared to my hips.
Right.
Or how can we use that idea in lifting? Like are there some like movements we could change? Like Charles does hack squats, for example, because of his limitations of his back.
With his back injury,
Yeah.
I think it ties in similar to what I was just sort of saying is that we are, although we're all human, we are built differently. And that goes into biomechanics, so limb lengths. If someone has a very long femur, for example, they're not going to probably be a very good squatter.
But they'll have a good deadlift.
But they're more likely probably going to have a better hinge if we were to compare the two movements. So for me, it's probably something that's very hard to explain in a verbal conversation rather than a pattern recognition thing.
Okay.
Where over a period of 20 years, I can have somebody come in the gym and spend 5 minutes just doing a few movements, and I can say, you're going to suck at that, but this will be a better variation for you. So when we're looking at, all those different squat patterns, you would be making a decision based off, well, what are the cards that you got dealt genetically, and let's set you up for success by putting you in the movement patterns that are going to have the less risk of injury attached to them and allow you to probably actually exert the most amount of force and effort into them. At the same time, like I'm built for pressing. I've got short limbs, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Jack, you could probably hamstring curl as much or more than what I can because you've got a long lever. It's like a catapult, right? Your ability to create force with that sort of movement is going to be superior than mine just because of limb length. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's important to have a good coach who can look over your body and not just give you the cookie cutter and pick the variation, because as I said, you want to have a squat, you want to have a hinge, you want to have a push, you want to have a pull. But in that hinge, do you need to deadlift from the floor? You're not a power lifter. The only reason that you're deadlifting from the floor is because they are the rules of a powerlifting competition. Or your ego goes, oh yeah, I can deadlift 240 kilos. Oh, but you didn't do it off the floor. You did it on a hinge. Oh, so it doesn't count. You know what I mean? But what is the outcome that you're looking for? If it's a stronger hinging pattern, hips and glutes, then maybe you don't need to do it from the floor. Maybe you're a sumo deadlifter. Maybe you're a stiff leg deadlifter. Maybe you do good mornings. Maybe you're a hyperextension guy. Doesn't really matter. But at the same time, that's where the rotation of your programs can come in, that once you've, because at the end of the day, you're always wanting to look to get a bit better. So let's say maybe you're deadlifting 60 kilos this week, you did your 8 reps. Next week, we're looking to do 62.5. Cool, done that well. Next week, we're going to go up incrementally again, 65. But the reality is it's not going to be a linear progression forever. You just can't keep getting better and better by 2.5 kilos every week for the rest of your life. So there's going to become a point in time where you're tapping out at your strength progression with that movement. And that's where I would say, okay, cool, let's swap that exact exercise out for another one that trains the same function and build up from there before we cycle back to it. You know what I mean? And that's usually how we make this sort of zigzag of progress over time.
Fantastic. So say you're a shorter lifter, would powerlifting style be easier to because you have a shorter limb length?
Not necessarily, because if you've got short arms, if you had short legs and long arms, yes, because then you don't have to pull the bar as far. But if you've got long arms, you're also going to push the bar further on a bench press. So you might be good at deadlifting, but you might be shit at bench pressing.
Yeah.
So it is a combination of those biomechanics, and it will come with pros and cons across those different lifts.
What are the main archetypes we might see in relation to biomechanics? Like the shorter limb person sometimes is a powerlifter. What would be the like other?
But at the same time, man, look at Thor.
Stars?
He's fucking 6 foot. You know who I'm talking about? The guy from Game of Thrones? He's not short.
Yeah, he's fucking massive.
He's one of the biggest humans in the world. In height and in weight.
He's a
And
powerlifter.
he's one of the strongest, the strongest man in the world, I believe. So it's not necessarily about short or tall. It's probably more the relative lengths of femur to shin, leg to torso, arms. You get what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no exact blueprint, but the typical one is a long femur is going to be worse for squatting. Long arms is going to make it harder for bench pressing, but easier for deadlifting because you don't have to then actually push the weight as far. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Tell us, what was it like starting jiu-jitsu, and when did you start jiu-jitsu? After lifting for so long and having a career in that.
Mate, I've always had love and interest in martial arts. Like, I remember watching the Ultimate Knockouts DVDs of the UFC with Chuck Liddell and all those guys back in early UFC.
Sick.
So I've been into it kind of from the start. And that's kind of cool, you know what I mean? That you've been there for the whole journey.
That's awesome.
And I think I first did jiu-jitsu. That's how I obviously met Mikhail. Came and did some one-on-ones with him probably back in maybe even like 2017, and never stayed on with it. Wasn't consistent with it, but formed a friendship. And then I obviously opened up Jungle HQ in Prahran in 2019, and then very shortly after, Ivan, who owns the Melbourne Jiu-Jitsu Academy, they relocated actually next door to the gym, which all of a sudden was the stars kind of lining up. So in 2020, I probably returned to some consistent training, or started training consistently, I should say. And I probably spent the first 2 years of training there at least, and have probably been here for, about 2 years nearly, maybe myself, with a few breaks in between from injuries and life circumstances and stuff like that. But what was the exact question about how it was?
Yeah, how's jiu-jitsu? I guess like you have a unique perspective too, because you've been lifting for so long. Now you're entering jiu-jitsu later on, and you have wife, kids, small business,
Mate, I believe that like what's cool about jiu-jitsu is, I think what it does for a lot of people who haven't necessarily had a sporting background, it gets them into a competitive environment where they're learning a skill. It's obviously building their confidence and self-esteem, and then they often go into a competition environment, and that's a really cool experience for people to go through if you've never done it before. And I guess because I've played high-level sports across multiple sports, I'd sort of scratched that itch. Like, I understand the composure, I understand managing your nerves, I understand managing your arousal levels to get yourself into the right state of mind mentally to perform at your best. And I've competed at Grappling Industries with Jiu-Jitsu, and I fucking blew my knee out that bad.
Shout out jiu-jitsu.
I got reaped, and I tore my LCL, my MCL, my ACL, my PCL. 2 of them were grade 2, one of them was grade both of them were grade 1. I chipped some bone
Wow.
and a little bit of cartilage. So
All good, Sam. Come through.
I was off to the hospital and had surgery, and you know, straight away after, it wasn't even just about the knee. It's just more the fucking inconvenience. You know what I mean? It's like now my life is hard. Like I got a Rottweiler. It's not easy to walk a Rottweiler.
Shout out Brunson.
Shout out Bronson. It's not easy to walk a Rottweiler when you're on crutches. You've got a business to run, which is gym and fitness, and you're trying to help people and lift weights around the place and keep it tidy. And you feel bad for my wife because she's got her own shit to deal with, and now she's waiting on me as well. So the consequences start to fall on the other people around me, and I can't fulfill the obligations. So since then, I put myself in the hobbyist category, and I feel no shame about doing so because I don't feel a need to prove anything to myself in terms of stepping into an uncomfortable space, because that's actually a familiar space for me, competing. And it's more now just something that I get a great deal of satisfaction out of, more so than lifting weights. Like I lifted weights for such a long time with a very deliberate goal of, being as muscular and large as I could. And once you go down that journey for long enough, you realize it's a pretty empty space, and the desires to train like that and the drive isn't there anymore. And so any lifting weights these days is to maintain function, performance. Like I get sore when I don't lift weights.
Yeah.
Like my back hurts, my knees hurt, all of these kind of like old man things that are starting to pop up in your life in your mid-30s are way more prevalent when I'm not lifting weights. And I don't have to be doing crazy amounts of weights, but I do have to be covering those bases of those sort of functions to do so. Whereas jiu-jitsu becomes more of a meditative experience. It's a real mental escape from work or life and just whatever pressures that you might, you're not thinking about anything else in a role, are you? And I really appreciate the community aspect and the camaraderie between other guys. And I think it's a rare environment where egos disappear, because there's always a bigger dick in the room, and we all know who that person is, and therefore, you've had the ability to hurt me if you wanted to, and you didn't, and that creates an element of sort of trust in that vulnerability, and then it leaves you with an open forum to have conversations about perhaps stuff that you wouldn't normally feel comfortable to disclose to other men, or you know what I mean? Because it's all dissipated through the training room, So I'm really grateful that jiu-jitsu has become part of my relationship with exercise and life, and I love it. And I just wish I started way earlier. And I feel like everyone who starts jiu-jitsu says that. And I wish I had more time and less responsibilities and could do more and more of it. And I wish that I didn't pull up so sore from it, which makes me wish that I didn't train like a bodybuilder back in the day, and maybe I wouldn't be so sore and I could do more jiu-jitsu. But it's just a fucking balancing act, right? And can't change the past.
I remember, Jack, there's no good or bad.
There's no good or bad.
I think that's the cool thing with combat sports. You get that level of intimacy because you know what you're simulating is like actively trying to damage another person.
Absolutely.
Right? And that, like you were saying, like you could, if someone has you in an armbar, they could just snap it.
Yeah.
But they're not going to. Right? And that, like, I have friends from training that, friendships that, kick off like that.
Yep.
That would, outside of this, would take years to develop.
Sure.
Right? And then, you come here train a couple times, get manhandled by someone where they like, they have a submission, but they don't. Or like you're permitted sparring, right? And I end up like off balance or some shit, and I see the hand is coming towards my face, and like if they wanted to, they could just rip it over, and they don't. And you're like, oh, there you go.
Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah.
But you're experienced enough to respect and know that.
Yeah. I also know what it's like when the other person doesn't decide to pull it off and you just eat it. So,
well, you learn pretty quick if you don't come in with that attitude, right?
Yeah.
Because fuck around, you'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I said, there's always the bigger fish in the pond, and you know, it doesn't take too long for people to get figured out if they've got that kind of approach to combat sports in general, I believe.
Yeah, the egos don't last long.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Like all four of us here, I spent most of my day-to-days the last couple years inside a gym. Recently went on holiday, and like when I was younger, all I did was surf. Like I didn't compete in anything until I was about 20. Then I always surfed, and I really forgot when you paddle out the lineup, and because I was paddling out to this kind of famous wave. I'd always wanted to surf Black Rock in the East Coast, like near Kalala. Near Jervis Bay, and you just get these death stares. Like it's not like jiu-jitsu. I'm like paddling out there like this little grom, like so excited, like hey guys, oh my God. Just like I would walking into the jiu-jitsu room, and you don't have that sort of camaraderie in most other sports because they really are competing. Like in surfing, you're competing for waves.
Yeah,
I think it's special in combat sports that we all hug each other and have this like feeling of oxytocin, being close to each other, and knowing the hierarchy. In a respectful manner. That's special, and I think that's good for male non-toxicity too.
And you never know like what sort of day someone's having.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean anything. It's like you have the better of someone, it doesn't mean anything. That person could be tired, they could be having a fight at home, they could have an injury that you don't know about, and it's just a really respectable place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I had a mate of mine on the mats that gave me a hug afterwards after we rolled, and he was like, I was having the worst day. Like after I didn't even want to come into training, and like he always teared up. I came to training, and like thank you like for training with me, because my day would have been terrible without the room. I'm like that's special.
I feel like you always have your best days when you turn up on the days that you really didn't want to go.
Yeah,
it's the opportunity to turn it all around.
Yeah. Would you be comfortable sharing your experience like with overcoming cancer? And
yeah, man.
Because I was I only found out about that recently, and that was pretty powerful.
Man, I found out that I had testicular cancer in COVID. Talk about when it rains and it pours, right? So I just emptied my. So I sold my previous business. I then spent every dollar that I had from the sale of that business and to my name essentially to set up Jungle. And I was like, I'm happy to put my balls on the line, if you will, knowing that there'll be less debt and we'll be back in the green as soon as possible. And then 2 months later, we got put into lockdown. Spent 2 years of that, as we all know. And in the middle of it as well, I think it was 3 days before my 30th birthday, I had surgery to remove my testicle. So that was a bit of a gnarly experience. Like I had a torsion, like a testicular torsion where it twisted on itself a few months before, which then resulted in an emergency surgery. And then in the process of that healing over the few months, like I kind of took a backward step, like something wasn't feeling right and good. So I went and had a follow-up. And in the follow-up is where in the ultrasounds, they discovered the tumors that was on my nut. And, you know, I look back on it and go, oh, I really, really believe that the torsion happened to bring my attention to it. You know what I mean? And without that incident happening, I may not have known. And it was interesting. I actually went to Thailand probably 6 months before. Was over at Tiger Muay Thai and stuff, training over there, and got sick like so many of us do. And then I came home, and for a long time, like every morning, I felt like I couldn't empty my bowel, so I just couldn't have a good shit. Felt really heavy in the bowel, and I thought I had a gut health issue from Thailand. But I now know that feeling is actually a symptom of testicular cancer. And so. And every now and then there was just like, you know, if you've just had like a little flick in the nut and that sort of lingering ache, I'd have a day like that here and there, but just would be very typical, probably stubborn male, and just be like, hey, I'll ignore it. If it's not here tomorrow, all good. You know what I mean? And so there was a few days like that over probably a 6 to 9 month period. And looking back, I'm like, that's what was going on. So the surgery happened from finding out that I had testicular cancer to the surgery to remove it was all very quick. That was probably less than 2 weeks. And then they biopsy the tumours after to determine how far along you are with your diagnosis. So there's stages of 1, 1A, 1B, 1C, 2, 2A, 2B, 2C, and then 3. So 2 means that it's spread to your lymph nodes, essentially. And as it gets into the 3s, it means that it's systemic and spread. So I didn't know this, but for example, Lance Armstrong, the cyclist who had testicular cancer, that had spread to his brain. Right? So he was well gone. I thankfully got mine at the 1C. So I was right before it went to my lymph nodes. So I hadn't even really thought about it because the headspace was pretty foggy at the time, but I was given the option to do chemotherapy because they gave me a 20% likelihood of it returning in 5 years. And the alternative, and they said if I do chemo, it'll bring it down to 5%. And I sort of looked into the alternative. I was like, so what's the alternative? And they said, well, you can monitor it, no chemo. And if it comes back, we do chemo. And so I said, no, thank you. And here we are about 4.5 years on and hasn't returned. And I just had a kid 9 weeks ago, which was on top of it because the cancer and everything and the stress on my body actually shut down my fertility. So I actually tried to put sperm on ice before the surgery in case you needed to have chemotherapy because that's going to dramatically or very negatively impact your fertility. And that was the kick in the guts that you didn't see coming, was to be told that there was actually no viable sperm and that you were infertile. Pretty emasculating. Not a great feeling to sit with, that I'm about to lose one of my crown jewels and I might not ever be able to procreate. And put things into perspective about what's really important and how much you actually did want to have children. So to go through that journey and, obviously resolve it. And I think you've actually just mentioned the one nut wonder. So I've actually got a men's fertility guide out now that, to help other guys, because men's fertility is an issue that's, pretty prevalent in society. It's historically been something isolated just to women, but to men's testosterone levels and fertility is definitely not looking good. But there are things that we can do about it from a lifestyle, nutrition and supplement point of view to turn that around, and I guess I'm proof of it.
100%.
Wow.
100%. What, without giving it all away, what are some of the secrets or key tips you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, obviously just cleaning up your lifestyle to start with. Like, I think it's really important when you look at any sort of intervention that you look at the big things first. Like I'd say to people, like if you had a flood in your laundry, you're not going to try and clean up the water damage before turning the water off. You know what I mean? So we've got to have a look at what's causing some of the inflammation from a lifestyle perspective. Is that like poor nutrition, like a lot of vegetable and seed oils, a lot of high sugar diets? Are you overweight? Are you drinking and a lot of alcohol and doing a lot of recreational drugs? Are you on prescription medications as well? Trying to clean up a lot of the foundations of health first. And then, from supplemental views, we can look at things like black seed oil. You can look at things like shilajit. There's taurine. There's, what else have we got off the top of my head? There's even things like HCG, which is a peptide typically used for women that are going through menopause. And that does a really good job of boosting men's natural testosterone and improving spermogenesis. So, yeah, there's a few little tips that people can get into if they want to start shooting ropes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Was
ropes.
I'm not as well researched as I should be. Is Tonkat
Ali.
Is that legit? Is that?
It seems to be on like papers, you know what I mean? But I haven't found many people to have had a subjective experience where they're like, wow, I feel so much better from taking Tongat Ali, and they've seen huge increases in their labs from just doing that alone. Don't get me wrong, I think in conjunction with other things, it certainly isn't going to hurt because, as I said, clinically it does show to improve your free testosterone, but it's a bit of that laundry situation. It's like, are you throwing Tonga Ali into just a fucking shit stream of like no other, you know, you're missing the 99% of what it takes, and then at the end of the day, it's called a supplement, right? To supplement the lifestyle and supplement the diet, and they're the 1%ers that give you that little bit extra when you are in the realm of optimization or reaching for, you know, the best that you can be.
All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. If viewers from home are looking to find some information about you, where do we find you online?
Now, you guys can find me on Instagram under Jungle Jack. There's a YouTube page as well, and you can check out the gym Jungle HQ on Instagram and in Prahran if you're a local in Melbourne.
That's cool. I highly recommend Jack's podcast too, Living Rewired. There's a few episodes from since 2019, hey?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done an episode. I'm actually just trying to organise a new guest list and fire it back up for a season, but we've had a couple absolute guests on there with Kadak, we've had Locke, and we've had obviously Mikhail on there as well. So yeah, check it out.
And the psychologist episode, it's
Michael Street.
Unreal. Yeah, highly recommend that one. Yeah, please listen to that. That's awesome. Cool. Shout out JubJub app for making this happen. Unfortunately, Tom's not in the building today, but he'll be in soon, hopefully. Cool. Anything else you wanted to mention?
Nah, that was, well, yeah, awesome.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Jack.
Legend.
Legend.
Thanks for having me. See you later.
Thanks.